Hey guys, Ron here, and over the last few months I've been trying out some Fakemon trends that have been gaining traction online, like swapping pre-evolved forms with their final evolutions, making new Pokemon by changing one letter from existing Pokemon, and even fusing every legendary Pokemon together. So naturally I decided to hop on the most requested trend, which was turning legendary Pokemon into regular old Pokemon. It's kind of the opposite of the videos I made where I took regular Pokemon and turned them into legendaries. There are many good examples online of de-legendaried Pokemon, but a lot of them seem like pre-evolved forms of legendary Pokemon. That's great and all, but I already have a series where I create prevos for legendary Pokemon, so keep in mind that none of these Pokemon here will look super simple and cute. I'm not turning them into babies. They can still look like final evolutions, even pseudo-legendaries, as long as they are no longer legendary Pokemon, but rather entire species that can be found in the game. I'm going to treat the Fakemon I'm going to make like new Pokemon that have the concept of the original legendaries they're based on, but without the epic lore and complicated godlike designs. So please, if you enjoy, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. But today's sponsor isn't complicated at all, while still being absolutely godlike. That is Surfshark VPN. A VPN keeps you safe and private by covering up everything you do online. Nobody will be able to see what you're up to or where you are, because using Surfshark, with the click of a button, you can change your IP address so websites think you're in a completely different country, giving you access to, let's say, all the early Pokemon episodes that haven't been released in your home country's Netflix catalog. Or what if you're shopping online and there's this super awesome Pokemon merch discount that is only being offered to a different country? You guessed it, you use Surfshark to access this once-in-a-lifetime offer. One subscription works on all of your devices, because remember, the most important matter is your internet security. If you want to surf the internet or share files in public, you need a VPN like Surfshark to protect you. I had some security breach in my bank app a few months ago, and I wish I had Surfshark Alert to let me know sooner, or Surfshark Antivirus when I was downloading some Pokemon music from a super sketchy forum like a year ago. Legends Arceus soundtrack was pretty hard to find for some reason. And now with Surfshark One, I can get all of the services that Surfshark offers all in one place. So don't make the same mistake I did. Use the link in the top of the description and enter promo code TrueGreen for an extra 3 months free at surfshark.deal/TrueGreen. There's no risk since they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So try it out, because it's a legendary deal from a legendary sponsor. Let's start big with the most legendary Pokemon of them all. Arceus. It's technically a mythical, but who cares? The alpha Pokemon is probably the best first example because people already compare it to a normal animal, the llama. Just a llama stuck in a fence, they say. We can go in different ways, both with the same design technically. We can give Arceus a mortal form, basically what Arceus looks like when he disguises himself as a humble Pokemon, or we can make an alpaca Pokemon that just so happens to look like Arceus. We can say it's a convergent form. I'm thinking I'll combine this idea. We're gonna make a Pokemon that was literally made in Arceus' image, but also is a separate species that Arceus sometimes disguises itself as, basically a parallel to the Judeo-Christian idea of humanity and its relationship to God, but also a funny little alpaca. Let's go. Just starting out with the proportions of an alpaca, but with dainty, pointy Arceus hooves. Small details like the tail are the same, even the eye is the same, but with larger cheek circles to look like blush. An actual snout will be the biggest change, and flowing hair, or else it would be a literal alpaca. The configuration of Arceus' bangs and sideburns are pretty similar to that of an alpaca's. Now it's time to add the fluffy wool, or fibers, whatever it's called. It'll still be very reminiscent of Arceus' body, just way more puffy and way less muscular. That's pretty much it. No wheel or gems. I did add a little dangly ball of fur on the sideburn to look like a Peruvian hat. After adding Arceus' colors, I added more animalistic ears instead of Arceus' pointy helmet spikes. It's a pretty mystical looking alpaca. I'd say it's an equal to Absol. This is Alpacius, the mortal Pokemon. This Pokemon can be found in mountainous rural settlements. Humans use their fiber to make clothes and blankets. Towns that herd Alpacius tend to be very prosperous and peaceful. It is said that people who wear Alpacius clothes receive good luck and fortune. Alpacius is kind and calm. In battle, they spit at their foes with dangerous pressure. They are able to harness the elements with their spit, throwing flames, shooting water, and even breathing frost. In ancient times, they were worshipped as gods. According to myth, Alpacius is the form Arceus takes when it wants to observe humans closely. This is why Alpacius herders treat them with total respect, on the off chance that they are in the presence of the alpha Pokemon. Its abilities are Fur Coat, Fluffy, and Super Luck, with the same shiny as Arceus. I've been wanting to design such a Pokemon for ages, so it's super cool to see it fully realized. Let's stay in Sinnoh and de-legend one of the most legendary Pokemon in existence, Dialga, the ruler of time. So for a lot of these, I want to keep aspects of the original lore, but make them mundane and very much not mythical creatures. They will have powers that the average Pokemon can access. So something on a less cosmic level would be a Brontosaurus. I mean, it's basically what Pokemon like Dialga have the body shape of, so what if instead of a time god, we have a super old Pokemon who can tell time? Something as ancient and rare as a Relicanth. A living dinosaur like Tropius, but mixed with the grandfather clock, a wise old skeleton dinosaur. No, but seriously, I want to give it a grandfather clock element. That's a big part of the concept. I'm starting with the body of a dinosaur, very traditional, simple shapes, since I don't want to make it look legendary. I then started adding simplified versions of Dialga's armor, but was afraid it looked too much like a Tropius at this point, so I immediately added Dialga's long head, but that kind of screwed me over since that made it look too much like an actual Dialga now, so that head will get smaller and smaller by the final design. I guess long head equals legendary? The helmet is kind of modeled after an ancient Greek helmet, since the point of this Pokemon is that it's not modern, it's pretty old. There were many times where I wanted to add a beard to make it look like a Father Time, but the point is to not overcomplicate the face, thus making it look legendary. I added a way shorter version of Dialga's head ornaments in the shape of a clock hand. In fact, I noticed that Dialga's patterns were already in the shape of the hands of a clock. Pretty clever. I'll add those here and there too. Instead of the signature Creation Trio face lines that Dialga has, I added 2 lines above the lips to make it look super old. Next is the piece of armor plating that flows down the neck, inspired by the pendulum in a grandfather clock. You know, the thing that swings on the bottom in order for the clock to work. Refining it a bit before giving it a way less developed version of Dialga's feet, and the hand-shaped armor on its back. Every detail is basically what Dialga has, but less fancy. I originally put a diamond on its pendulum, and then realized that this is no longer the Diamond Legendary. After giving it Dialga's colors, I was frustrated with how similar it looked to Dialga, so I added lines to the pendulum to make it look like a spine, and decided to lean into the whole skeleton look. I took out the diamond to make it hollow, and made it this pale purple. It's full-on ghost type now, with a bone motif. Behold, Centurior, the grand Pokemon from Century and Roar, a ghost dragon type. Centurior can exist for centuries. They are able to slow down their metabolism for years in order to preserve their body. For millennia, they were believed to be halfway dead. They don't respond to most stimuli, but are very punctual. They will eat, sleep, and train at the same time each day. They have perfect internal clocks. In some civilizations, Centurior were responsible for keeping track of seasons and holidays. In battle, they will let out a ghostly roar that sends chills and freezes opponents. It can crush enemies with one headbutt. It has the abilities Rock Head, Telepathy, and Sheer Force. I thought a similar shiny to Dialga's will work and even fit better on this ghost type. It has access to Roar of Time, by the way. I hope you love the allusions to the power to control time, too. Perhaps it's a descendant of Dialga. Eternatus is, in my opinion, the most mysterious and Lovecraftian of all legendaries. I can't comprehend it, and Game Freak gave us zero backstory to it. Why does it look the way it does? A dragon skeleton. What would it look like with skin? That's what fans have been asking for years. Imagine Eternatus was just a normal Pokemon from a parallel dimension, almost identical to ours, but was completely warped upon traveling through a wormhole. I want to make a poison dragon that looks very traditional looking, something that we're familiar with, as a juxtaposition to Eternatus, which looks completely unlike any Pokemon, and even Ultra Beasts. Keep in mind, this is just one of many potential designs for a non-skeleton Eternatus. Maybe in the future I'll make a more legendary looking one, while now I'm planning to make this one look more like a pseudo-legendary, or at least less complicated than what I assume an official one would actually look like. The head was very straightforward. I think it's similar to what many of us imagined, but I eventually fell into the classic shrink-wrapping dilemma, where whenever you reconstruct a body around the skeleton, artists tend to make the skin mold perfectly to the bones, when in reality, there's a lot of muscle and fat between the skin and bones, changing its appearance completely. So I made sure to make the body way bulkier than the real Eternatus, very amphibian-inspired. It's a salamander, since they're heavily associated with both dragons and poison. But remember that this isn't what Eternatus looks like. Its proportions are completely different, since it's legendary. I'm making a pseudo-legendary here. That's why I made the eyes way more generic. It'll have claws that mix both reptile and amphibian. Since Eternatus has so many spikes, I added them on the spine. But that was me once again shrink-wrapping the design, so I took them out eventually. I thought the face was too simple and lacked any concept, so I made it way more dangerous looking. Originally, I was going to give it wings, but then decided to leave them as is, and make them poisonous tendrils that it uses, well, to poison. I eventually added all these spikes and details, but regretted it. It looked too much like an actual dragon, very legendary and complicated, so by the final design, its head is bigger, it's way less spiky and slender, and of course, way lighter than Eternatus, whose dark violet colors are too intimidating for an average Pokemon. This is Lethalamen, The Swelling Pokemon from Lethal and Salamander, a poison dragon type. Lethalamen are not to be messed with. They whip around their poisonous tendrils in battle. One minor scratch from their spikes will inject enough poison to incapacitate. When poisoned by Lethalamen, the body begins to swell, increasing in size as it fills with toxins. Lethalamen can breathe in all the toxins back into its body if it chooses to spare its opponents. They are not native to our universe. It is believed that Eternatus is the result of one of these Pokemon being violently transported into our world, stripping it of its organs and increasing its power exponentially. It has the ability Poison Touch with the hidden ability Multiscale. I gave it a fun shiny too, very bright to warn others of how dangerous it is. As a pseudo-legendary, I imagine it has pre-evolutions. Remember that I plan on giving Eternatus slightly different lore in the future, so this isn't my final headcanon, just one for this video where I make a non-legendary out of it. I hope you like how I translated Dynamaxing into this Pokemon's power to make you swell. Next is a colossal lore-filled legendary, the creator and leader of the legendary titans, Regigigas. Dude molded the Regis out of ice, rocks, and magma and even moved the continents. But what if we took the same concept of a Pokemon that sculpts figures and applied it to something that you could find, anywhere around the Pokemon world? I want to make a puppeteer Pokemon, a wooden Pokemon that makes wooden figures that it moves using its power of plant manipulation. It's easy to picture since Regigigas already has a ton of moss on it. Imagine that, but way more greenery, combined with a Renaissance painter. Let's do it. So imagine a skinny Regigigas. It'll look like a hollow marionette. It has the face of a Regigigas, but the moss surrounds the entire head and curls up to look like an artist's mustache. It's an entire mustache bush now. It has these leaves on its head to look like the hair of a balding man, with another clump of leaves to look like hair and a beret. Its body is segmented like a wooden puppet. Finalizing the face shape, it's just a shorter version of Regigigas' face, but it also makes it look like it has a nose. The hands are simpler versions of Regigigas', refining it all and giving it some shrubbery on the feet. It's way smaller than Regigigas, so the individual leaves are more visible. The colors were tough to come up with since I wanted it to be white like Regigigas, but also look brown like wood. In the final design, I settled on white and gold wood. Check out Sculptimber, the puppeteer Pokemon, a grass normal Pokemon. It's a master artisan. It whittles figures from trees. Its work is so realistic, it is mistaken for living beings by forest Pokemon. It can control wood remotely, allowing it to puppet its creations. It uses its wooden puppets in battle to attack foes and take hits for it. When it has no puppets left, it battles with its flexible body. It is not the fastest, since its body consists of stiff wood, but its segmented limbs allow it to completely turn body parts and even extend them. It can attach fibers into other Pokemon and manipulate them like puppets as well. Sculptimber is said to be a distant relative of Regigigas. It has a new signature ability called Woodworker, which gives priority to grass-type moves. This is perfect considering its speed. I wonder if Sculptimber would be more useful in battle than Regigigas, despite not being a legendary anymore. Its shiny is reminiscent of white birch in autumn, one of my favorite kinds of scenery. Honestly, this is the one I'm most proud of. While it looks a bit like a Regiwood, I have something else in mind for that. In my opinion, it exemplifies the purpose of this video and trend the most. It really is the concept of Regigigas, but far less epic. Now it's time for Necrozma. This will be the one to change the least. What if Necrozma was just one of the many Pokemon you can find in caves around the region, like a Boldore or Sableye? A little prism dude that takes inspiration from Necrozma's weakened state, like straight up mini Necrozma, less complicated and more humanoid. Okay? You understand? Cool. Imagine Necrozma but not tortured, just a prism guy with Necrozma aesthetics, far less spikes and angles, just a rock kid without any indication that its body is made up of a mangled crystal dragon. It's not an alien anymore, so its configuration is a bit more humanoid. Every single complex shape is now more familiar. Its feet look like boots, its head looks like a hat, and its arms look like gauntlets. I'm taking a bit of cowboy inspiration. Not that on the nose though. I picture him as a wandering rogue. It's Necrozma's colors, but I decided to simplify the refracted light so that its chest is colorful. Say hi to Prismini, the Prism Pokemon, a psychic rock type. These Pokemon wander around from cave to cave. When direct light hits Prismini's body, it glows and refracts light, giving away its position. Pokemon like Gabite and Sableye immediately attack. Thankfully, Prismini is able to shoot out lasers of light in every direction. Prismini recharge by basking in light every morning, but they will go back into hiding when they've filled up on photons. The older the Prismini, the darker its body. They are born completely clear. It has the ability Prism Armor like Necrozma, since it still totally fits. And of course, it can learn Photon Geyser and Prismatic Laser. This guy is super cool. Would be one of my favorite Pokemon if it were real, since it balances out all the extreme traits of Necrozma and gives it a much more likable personality. But I would understand if you love the mystery and lore of the actual Necrozma more, especially Ultra Necrozma. But please, leave a like and subscribe if you want this to become a series. Check out all of my other Fakemon videos, as well as the description for all the music I use, my Twitter, and Patreon, where you can see my videos days early and get discounts on the t-shirts I made for you guys. You can also do that by becoming a member on YouTube. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye bye!